Greetings and salutations to all my listeners. This is Pamela Tartar, and you're listening to Factor 9 on Pure Momentum Network. My very special guest today is Michael Williams, and he's the founder of Imagine Hypnotics. Mike is also an accomplished musician. He's a singer and songwriter. And in February of 2013, Mike's debut album, Leaving Dystopia, was released. We will discuss hypnotics, what it is and what it is not, how it works, how it can be very safe, how hypnotics can aid us in knowing ourselves better, including past life regression and between lives regression. Mike and I will discuss his album, Leaving Dystopia, and you can take a look at Mike's work on imaginehypnotics.com, and for the album, laboroflovemusic.com, and I'll give those addresses again later. Mike, I'd like to welcome you to Factor 9 on Pure Momentum Network, and I'm so happy you're here with me today.
Well, thank you, Pamela. It's great to be here.
Well, you and I have so many wonderful conversations, and I just know that this one is going to be just as exciting as the other ones. And you're on the other side of the mic this time, so this ought to be fun. How did your interest begin in hypnotics?
Well, it's kind of interesting. If you have some time, I can take you a little bit through my path in life and lead you right into answering that question.
Oh, that'll be perfect.
Well, when I was growing up, I just looked at things differently. And when I was a young boy, I would say things like, the earth is a petri dish, or we're in a fishbowl. And I would say things like Mars was once like Earth and human progress was helped along by advanced beings. And I just would say these things. It wasn't like I was watching television or reading books and, getting these ideas. It just kind of flowed out of my mouth. And I had, no connection to institutionalized religion, even though my mother tried in vain to raise me as a Roman Catholic. And as I was growing up as a kid, I had what most people would consider to be paranormal experiences. And so and those experiences for me included apparitions. So that was kind of, my experience growing up as a kid. And, I didn't think anything of it. I just didn't think it was odd. I just didn't think anything. I just thought, well, it just is,
Right.
And then as I was getting older and I got into my teens, I started playing guitar. And then when I was in my early 20s, I was attempting a music career. And then, how that goes. Eventually, you have to go get a quote-unquote real job because you can't pay the bills if you don't have any money.
Starving musicians, yes.
Starving musician, exactly. And so then I went to go work in the corporate world, and I spent 32 years in the corporate world and had a successful career. But the interesting thing was I never felt completely comfortable in the corporate environment. I always felt like a fish out of water. Mm-hmm. But there were some very valuable lessons learned by working in the corporate world. I look back now, hindsight is 20/20. And so with my practice, I have a lot of clients that come in that work in the corporate world, and they have the stresses and the anxiety and everything else that goes along with that type of life. And I understand it.
Yeah.
And so,
that must be a big help. Yeah.
It's a big help. And, a rapport is established right away. And then about, 10 years ago, I hit a crossroads in my life, and I had some significant life challenges, which forced me to look in the mirror and ask myself, what am I doing? And what is my life about? And I had to figure out what my life is about, because I knew it wasn't about what I had just got done, that path I had just got done walking on, because, that was not going anywhere that was going to be positive. So a little time after that, I want to say maybe around the 2005, 2006 timeframe, I started seeing swirling lights at night, and I would see those for weeks, and I never had seen them before. And I would be lying in bed, and these lights would just materialize.
Were your eyes open or closed?
They were closed. Okay. And I was not asleep. That's the important part here. I was not asleep. So
right.
I would be lying there and resting, and all of a sudden I would see these lights. And as I was watching them, they would occasionally they would form into something that was recognizable, like a person or a building. But at the time, when I was first experiencing this, they were so in the distance that I really could not make anybody out or, make out what that building was, that type of thing there.
Right.
So long story short is this had gone on for a while. And then one evening it happened and this light was swirling and it was in a distance, and then it was getting closer and closer and closer. And as it was getting closer, it was manifesting, and it manifested into a being that was, their face was just this radiant, brilliant white light. And it looked like an ancient Greek philosopher. That's the best way to explain it. I remember now, for everybody who's listening, I was not asleep, so it was not a dream. So if this sounds odd, think of me sitting in bed and experiencing this whole thing. And this face materialized, Pamela, and it was right in front of me. And there was this telepathic communication. The face was very stoic looking. And essentially the communication to me was, hey, Mike, you know what? It's time to make a shift. There's a new path. And I had this feeling of amazement, this bliss, this love. And at the time, I thought I had actually seen God.
Right, yeah.
And
I can see why you would think that.
Yeah. So I had to basically take stock and figure out, okay, what's going on here? What was this? What was this all about? I had never had an experience like this before. And I started questioning everything about my life and existence in general. And so shortly after that, I started consuming everything I could find on metaphysics and spirituality and consciousness. And I ordered a book back in 2009 called Memories of the Afterlife, which is a book by Michael Newton. I bought the book thinking it was a book on near-death experience, NDE. It was a pre-order from Amazon. And when I got the book, I said, well, this is not about NDE. But I started reading the back cover and it piqued my interest. And long story short, I read the entire book in 3 days. It was an amazing book. It connected all my dots. The book made perfect sense to me. It was about reincarnation. I had my own past life and between life session in the latter part of 2009, and it was a complete game changer. It was a true awakening for me. And I left that session knowing that I needed to do this work. And so I completed my hypnosis and regression training soon afterwards in early 2010, along with receiving my Reiki attunements, because that was interesting. I didn't know anything about Reiki. And all of a sudden I was kind of tapped, and a little voice saying, you need to go get your Reiki attunements. And I did. And today I'm a Reiki master and received my Life Between Lives training from the Newton Institute. And I never looked back. It's been an extraordinary ride. And that's how I got into hypnosis. That's the story.
Well, that's really exciting. I want to ask one question.
Yes.
When you saw the face that came closer to you, did it look like it was the same size as your face, like the same size as all of us, or was it bigger?
I would say it was maybe a little smaller than a regular size face. It would be like if we were sitting at a table across from each other. And that's, if I had to put like a perspective around it, it was like that.
I see. Okay. I have had similar experiences, but my the faces were huge. Like to my waist and up was the head.
Okay.
So it was very, very big. So I wanted to know about that, but we won't go into that any further. Thank you. Now, I'm having difficulty with my eyes, so I couldn't read the bio that I had for you, but I want you to explain to us what the designations, the little letters after your name are about, okay? The CMHT and the RMP. Would you explain what that is, please? Okay,
CMHT is Certified Master Hypnotherapist.
Okay.
And RMP is simply Reiki Master Practitioner.
Okay, thank you for explaining that. That helps me and helps other people know what you just said, that's what those letters are about after your name. And people can go to your websites that I gave out earlier, and it's imaginehypnotics.com, and they can read your bio there and look at what all your services are and really get an education on what hypnosis is about.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time on the website. I really wanted to get the information out to potential clients, Pamela. I went to a lot of sites and there's just lack of content. And I thought, well, I'm just going to put a lot of content out there.
Well, I appreciated it and I learned quite a bit. Thank you. Now, what is hypnosis exactly? It kind of explain that to us, what it is, and in there somewhere at the end, put what it is not.
Well, hypnosis is a natural state of mind. That's the first thing I tell all my clients. Most people have their perception and understanding of hypnosis based upon TV and the movies. And that's not how it works. And it's a natural state of mind. And you go into hypnosis at least twice a day. When you first wake up in the morning, that little groggy state. And then at night, that in-between state, right before you nod off to sleep, that's a hypnotic state. And when we talk about a hypnotic state, it just means that the brain waves have slowed down. It's a trance state. Mm-hmm. So when we're in our conscious mind, that would be the beta waves, and our beta waves are 13 to 40 hertz. When we go into alpha, which is the next state down, would be 7 to 12 hertz, and then there's theta, which is 4 to 7, and then delta, which is 0 to 4. That's delta is sleep.
Well, but that makes a lot of sense, Mike, because I do my spirit work in the morning before I get up, before I'm fully awake, and then again at night before I go to sleep. And so that makes a lot of sense to me.
Well, that's all it is. It's a slowing down of the brain waves. And that's what I explain to my clients. It's not anything magical or mystical. Mm-hmm. Some folks like to play it up that way. I am not that way. I want to be, just this is what it is. Take the mystery out of it. It's just slowing down the brain waves. So when we get clients into the brain waves that go slower, alpha as an example, 7 to 12, that's where you can do a lot of relaxation, visualization, your creativity. And theta is where you want to be when we're doing hypnosis, especially if we're doing spiritual regression like past lives and between lives. That's where your meditation and spiritual regression types of work can be done.
Oh, that's great. And we're going to get into that in the second hour in our member section. So everyone that's listening, be sure and go and sign up now so you can be ready to hear the second hour when we go into it. So, Mike, what is not hypnosis? I mean, you've already said that it's not, anything woo-woo really, and it's certainly not like the movies, because everything they put in the movies is a little twisted anyway, I think. But is there anything else you want us to know that hypnosis is not?
Well, it's not mind control.
Good.
Because of TV and because of people just not knowing, they will equate mind control with hypnosis and hypnosis with mind control. And hypnosis is not mind control. With hypnosis, you cannot do anything that defies your moral convictions, your religious convictions. All hypnosis is self-hypnosis, which means I don't have any control over you. The ability to go into a hypnotic state completely lies with the client. The client has to want to relax, has to want to experience hypnosis, and all I do is facilitate. I'm trained to facilitate, and my training is such that I can get you into those lower brainwave states, to get you into alpha, and like I said, we really want to get you into theta state. Right. Now, a lot of people do confuse it because they believe that a hypnotist takes control over somebody, and it's not. And it's important to understand when we talk about mind control programs, what we're really talking about is brainwashing with the ultimate goal, establishing a new identity. So it's really reprogram or a repattern of the mind. And that's not what hypnosis is doing. And in order to do reprogramming and to repattern the mind, when we talk about mind control, there's a lot of evil stuff that goes along with it. We're talking about pain, electric shock, there's sensory deprivation, isolation, trauma, yes. Yes, both physical and emotional. Right. Drugs, especially drugs like LSD, scopolamine, mescaline. Right. So in order to do the mind control, all of those other things have got to be done first in order to actually break the mind down, just break it down. Right, right. I understand that, and I'm so glad you made that clear for our listeners that these are east and west. Hypnosis and mind control are not together at all. They're opposite each other. And it also has a lot to do with the intention of the hypnotherapist. Yes. If someone wants to take control of you, then they can maybe, if you don't know what you're doing, they can maybe work some mind control on you, and you'll think it's hypnosis. But now that you've heard Mike talk, you'll know that's not correct. No, it's not correct. And the important point there, Pamela, is that with anything, make sure you go to somebody who is reputable, is trained and skilled, highly skilled and experienced in this work.
Right. And would it be incorrect for me to ask you if you had a client that would be willing to talk to me and say, I had a good experience with Mike and this is what happened? Do you think someone would do that for me?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, that means a lot right there to have that recommendation.
Oh, yeah, that won't be a problem. I have, a lot of very happy clients.
Right. That is so wonderful. Well, is there anything that you can tell us about how it works? If a client comes to you and says, I really want to know more about myself and I want to be functioning the way I'm supposed to because I want to be the best I can be, what would you do from there?
Well, each client in each situation is very different. And what I do with my hypnosis, which is different from a lot of other hypnotists, is my hypnosis is what I refer to as interactive, which means that I don't just read scripts. So some folks will go to a hypnotherapist, and that hypnotist, what they'll do is get that person into a trance state and then essentially read scripts. So that's called direct suggestion. You will not smoke. You'll never smoke. That type of thing there.
Right.
Now, the problem with that is that the unconscious mind can reject suggestions. And if you're not getting feedback or having interaction with the client, then you're not going to know if what you're doing as far as the work that you're doing with the client is actually, how would you say?
Taking an effect or something?
Having an effect, or that the unconscious mind is grabbing onto it, is what I meant to say.
Ah. Yeah.
So if you're just going to read scripts as a hypnotherapist, you're going to be at a significant disadvantage if that's going to be your approach. Because like I said, the unconscious mind can reject suggestion. Mm-hmm. So what I do is I have very interactive sessions. And I explain to my clients that you'll be able to speak to me while you're in trance. Mm-hmm. And we're going to have some dialogue and we're going to do some exercises. Because the key to getting a client to change and to shift is to get the unconscious mind to become aware of what needs to get done, what needs to get fixed. The unconscious mind is very, very good at, once it becomes aware, at working on something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So as an example, I'll give you a real life situation. I have a client. I still see her periodically, but she came to me a couple of years ago, maybe it's more than a couple of years ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, 47 years old with rheumatoid arthritis. Single mom, 2 kids, 2 boys, and she was having a very difficult time functioning. There were some days where she was virtually incapacitated.
From pain or from the crippling effect? Yeah.
Pain and swelling.
Yeah, bless her heart.
Pain and swelling. And so, of course, Western medicine, their fix for that is just keep taking all these pills, just keep taking anti-inflammatories and, whatever other types of prescriptions they hand out for arthritis. And the problem is with a lot of folks who suffer from RA is that the medications, they don't work, and many times they don't work. This creates fear. The client now starts to panic. Okay, well, this is not working, so, what's next? So anyway, this client came to me and asked me if I can help them. And I said, well, I'd be more than willing to try to help you, and I believe I can help you. Now, this is the interesting part. And when I talk about interactive hypnosis, this is what I'm referring to. There's a technique called parts therapy. And what parts therapy means is that, our overall character, our being is our ego. But our ego is made up of sub-egos or parts. Now, what I did with this client was I did parts therapy, and I had the part come out that is responsible for the pain. And I had the part come out that is wanting to not have the pain. And so we do this. It's a rather lengthy type of session. It's at least, an hour to do this type of session. The client has to be very, very deep. I have to have them in theta state for this type of work. It can't be the lighter alpha state. And so I can actually converse with these parts, and the parts will speak to me as if the client is not there. It's like having 3 people in the room.
I understand.
Right? It's very
Yes.
interesting. It's
Yes.
And as I'm talking to the part, I said, "Why do you do what you do?" And the part that causes the pain says, "Well, I create the pain because she won't slow down. Everything's about work. Everything is run, 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 go, go, go. She's not taking any breaks, not taking any vacations. She's not spending enough time with her family because everything is about working."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so the way I slow her down is I push the pain button. And when I push the pain button, she can't run. She has to go lie down. She has to go put her feet up. And I said, "Well, you realize," I said, that it's putting the client, I'll call her Jane, in a lot of pain. And the part is, well, I understand that. But if she gets balance in her life and brings balance into her life, then she won't have to worry about the pain because I won't push that button anymore.
Phenomenal.
Well,
Yeah.
And what happened was I did a lot of work. That was the first session. We had a couple of more sessions after that. And her pain and her arthritis subsided drastically.
Wow.
Drastically. She went to her rheumatologist and she walked in, no pain. And the rheumatologist looked at her and said, "Wow, you're doing great. I guess, the medications are working."
Yeah, right.
And she told the doctor, "No, it has nothing to do with your medications." I went to a hypnotist and it's hypnotherapy. So what this really says is that the power of the mind is extraordinary, absolutely extraordinary.
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful to know. I do similar work when I do emotional body work, and I talk to the different parts of the emotional body. So I'm very I'm very acquainted with what you're saying, and I'm very interested in it. And I know it works because I do similar work. And the different parts of us, our amazing being, all want to communicate with us. They all have some information to give us, and it's so great to hear that you can communicate with the different parts of self of that person and then get some information that you can use to help the person. That's a great story. I'm glad you shared that with us. And it's good to know that she's gotten some relief.
She's doing very well today. Very, very well.
Now, do you, when you say you have every little while she comes back, is that kind of like a brush-up session? Or, do you go in there and ask that part of her, if things are going okay, we don't want you to have to push the pain button again? Or what are those brush-up sessions?
Yeah, we call them tune-ups. They are, we tune them up. And we do actually go in, and because sometimes she will venture into being out of balance.
Yeah.
And then she'll come to me and, we'll go in and talk to the part. Or if I'm not doing parts therapy, I'll utilize some other techniques to essentially get her to relax and understand we have to get the balance back in the life. Now, the thing is, what a lot of people have to understand is it's not one of these things where you do it once and it's fixed forever type of thing. I mean, some things can be, but many things are not. So it's like anything else. You have to continue to focus and work on yourself,
right?
Mentally and physically in order to keep yourself healthy. And this is no different.
Right. Well, I always say that healing is not magic. Healing is something that I personally live into every day. And that kind of sounds like what you're talking about, because if I go back on what I'm doing with my healing, then I'm going to go back to the way it was when I was in that situation. So I have to keep moving forward, and I have to keep doing the correct things to keep the healing active.
No, exactly. You have to work at it.
Good. Now, we touched just briefly about how important it is to choose the right therapist. And I need to take a break here, Mike. I'm sorry I started that. You can be thinking about it. Normally, we do commercials for our network at this point on other shows, but today we're going to play a complete piece of your music, and it's going to be the title track to your album, Leaving Dystopia. And I wanted everybody to get a taste of your music, so we're going to play one song in the first hour and one song in the second hour. And today, instead of doing commercials, we're going to let people hear one of your songs. And then after they hear it, I'm going to read the lyrics because I think they're so amazing. And remember, you can go to his website. And would you tell us what that website is for the album?
laboroflovemusic.com, and the album can also be purchased on Amazon and iTunes.
Thank you so much. You know, they say if the guest says it, people remember it more than if the interviewer says it.
Maybe I should say it again.
No, go ahead.
laboroflovemusic.com.
Very, very good. Well, you're listening to Pamela Tartar with her wonderful guest, Michael Williams. And this is Factor 9 on Pure Momentum Network. And you're going to hear Leaving Dystopia, and we'll be right back after you listen to this song.
You are listening to the Pure Momentum Network.
I'm packing my bags, and I'm out of here. Riches to rags, can't live in fear. This place is surreal. Nobody cares. It has no feel, just blank stares. I'm tired of all the hate. I'm tired of all the dysfunction. I'm tired of being tired. I'm leaving dystopia. I'm not a slave, so please go away. I won't behave. I don't care what you say. I don't sleepwalk. I crawl on my knees. And I don't sheep talk. So you can be pleased. I'm tired of all the hate. I'm tired of all the dysfunction. I'm tired of being tired. I'm leaving dystopia. I'm packing my bags, and I'm out of here. Riches to rags, can't live in fear. This place is surreal. Nobody cares. It has no feel, just blank
Welcome back, everyone. I know you enjoyed that song by Michael Williams, and I'm going to read you the lyrics because I'm a big one on lyrics, and it's not easy to write lyrics. I know because I've done it. Okay, Leaving Dystopia. I'm packing my bags. I'm out of here. Riches to rags. Can't live in fear. This place is surreal. Nobody cares. It has no feel, just blank stares. I'm tired of the hate. I'm tired of all the dysfunction. I'm tired of being tired. I'm leaving dystopia. I'm not a slave, so please go away. I won't behave. I don't care what you say. I don't sleepwalk or crawl on my knees. I don't sheep talk so you can be pleased. I'm tired of the hate. I'm tired of the dysfunction. I'm tired of being tired. I'm leaving dystopia. I'm parking my bags, and I'm packing my bags, and I'm out of here, riches to rags. Can't live in fear. This place is surreal. Nobody cares. It has no feel, just blank stares. I'm tired of all the hate. I'm tired of all the dysfunction. I'm tired of being tired. I'm leaving dystopia. And that is the song that you just listened to from Michael Williams. And Michael's going to tell you the web address yet again, please, Mike.
www.laboroflovemusic.com.
Very good. And you can buy it on Amazon. And we'll be playing another one in the second hour. Now, Mike, could you please take a few minutes and tell us how this music album began? I always say that the beginnings of a creation comes from imagination. So you get something going in your head, and then you move it into this dimension, and it becomes a creation. So if you can kind of walk us through a little bit of that, that would be interesting.
Well, I always wanted to release my own album, and I've been playing guitar most of my life. I did try to have my music published, and I tried to secure record deals way, way, way back when. I'm not a young lad anymore. And so a lot of years had passed, Pamela, and, with the career in the corporate world and, family responsibilities and everything else. And back in late, I guess it was 2011, going into early 2012, I don't know. I just decided that, you know what, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to put this album together. I'm going to write brand new music for it. And because I've got something to say, because that's how I'm able to express myself. I'm best able to express myself through my music. And because the creativity factor is there and it's something that I love to do. And so I thought I would write an album which has a theme running through it, which talks about what's going on in the world and how we can make things better.
I appreciate that. Yeah. I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I didn't want to, write a bunch of songs about, woe is me or that type of thing there. I wanted a couple of songs where I essentially, put what I believe to be reality out there in front of the listener. And then there's other songs which are very uplifting songs like, Beautiful Soul, which kind of take it home for the listener. You know what? We've got issues and we've got problems in the world, but you know what? We can overcome these problems. Mm-hmm. We just need to get together, come together, and move the ball forward. Wow. And that's really why I did the album.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Do you hear the music first, or do you write the lyrics first?
Wow, that's a good question. I would say it's probably a mix. Mm-hmm. There are times like I'll be on the treadmill and these lyrics will come to me. And it's almost like, oh, you know what? I got to just get off this treadmill
and write them down
write them down before I forget them.
Right.
And other times it'll just be me, playing guitar or sitting down at the keyboard, playing piano and, just getting some chords together. And it's like, well, that sounds nice, So let me see if I can make something out of this. So I would say it's probably a 50-50 mix.
Right. Well, sometimes for me, lyrics come easy, and sometimes it's like birthing a baby is pretty difficult.
Right, yes.
And then that's when I just have to walk away and say, this is not the time for this. And then you hear of somebody like Elton John who says he does the whole works in 30 minutes or less, and every one of them are a big hit. So, maybe that's not my talent, but you are very talented, and I appreciate your work. And I wanted everyone else that's listening to hear it and avail themselves of your album because it can open eyes. And the one I'm going to play in the next hour really says, we're not alone. Take my hand and show me how to get out of this mess. And we can do that for each other. You know, we have to know that we are created to be communal beings. We're not supposed to be alone. We're supposed to help each other and be with each other and walk with each other. And of course, you know, anyone that's heard me for more than 5 minutes knows that I know and I am fully aware that love is the most powerful energy in the universe. And that's what we need to whip out. We need to whip out our love and share it with each other and say, look, I can't carry your burden, but I can hold your hand and help you from time to time. And that's all we need.
That's
and
right.
I appreciate that in your work, Mike. Is there anything else about the album or about music you'd like to share with us?
No, not really. The only other thing is that starting next month, I'm going to be working on the next album.
Do you have a name yet?
You know, I have this name called Hollow Moon, but I don't know if I'm going to use it. It's just been sticking in my head. So it's kind of a working title right now, Hollow Moon. And I have probably around 3 or 4 songs written.
Wow.
Some of them are on the recorder already, but they're in, you know, not in any finalized form.
Date.
But yeah, I would say, and people have been asking me, well, when are you going to have the next album out? And I said, oh, I don't know. I'm thinking sometime, it's going to be sometime next year. I haven't put a firm date on it yet. So all I've been telling folks is 2015 sometime I'll have the second album out.
Well, that's good, rather than pin yourself down and then have all the stress over it. I like that. I like the way you're doing that. Well, we'll certainly look forward to that, and you can come back and talk with us about that when it gets out.
Thank you. I'll be back.
Okay. All right. That's great. Now, let's go back to your Imagine Hypnotics. And I love the word imagine. And I would like to know how you chose that as the name for your services. Now, I just, on my last show on Critical Mass, the second hour was about imagination and visualization. And it's really, really important. And I thought, oh my goodness, we've got to talk about how he showed up with imagine. What were you thinking about when you used the word imagine in your name?
Well, there are actually 2 sources. The first one is that your imagination is very, very important when we talk about hypnosis, because your imagination is the language of your unconscious mind. So when you can imagine, then you're going to be in the direction you want to be. So I tell people your thoughts create your reality. So, you know, you have to imagine in order to do that. So that's 50% of how I got the name. The other one is that I love John Lennon.
I was going to bring that up in a little bit because someone wrote a wonderful, recommendation for your album, and he said that he thinks you channel John Lennon.
Yeah.
Do you remember that one?
Brett Campbell from, it was a review that I did. He contacted me and said, hey, I got a copy of your album. I want to talk to you. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, it was a review. And he said that he really feels like you channel John Lennon. So I'm not surprised that influenced the name. And of course, you and I are similar ages. I'm probably a little older than you, but the Beatles did affect all of us, and even people that are not into music. I feel like the Beatles did affect them in some way, and even our whole society.
Yeah.
So,
I could talk for hours about the Beatles, but I'll just say this: that some of the greatest rock music ever written.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, people need to look at the lyrics, because a lot of the stuff that was written way back when fits right now today. Yes. You know, read the lyrics, and I love for people to enjoy the music, but let's know what we're hearing here, and it might help us out. So Imagine Hypnotics, And I read somewhere on your website that you like to have an upfront consultation that's free. And I guess you're trying to get an idea of what they want to do and what their need is.
Right. So a client will call me up, and what I'm trying to do is to get some more specifics about their issue. Sometimes a client will call Pamela and they will have multiple issues.
Mm-hmm.
They want to work on, they want to work on stress. They want to work on being depressed. They want to work on, they have fears.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we have to do is we can't work on all of those things at one time. So what I ask them to do is to prioritize which issue is most important to them right now.
Right.
And what's very interesting is typically there is a core issue, and that core issue has tentacles.
Right.
So if you solve and resolve the conflict of the core issue, then these other issues that they are experiencing typically go away.
Right.
But that's what the consultation is typically about, is, just to understand a little bit about what their issue is. And it's also for me to introduce myself to them, because rapport is so important.
Oh, I imagine it is. I know it is. And people need to feel safe with you. And I think that that's really important, that they get that sense of themselves, how they're responding to you, what their inner self is saying about this person that's going to be helping me. I think that's really important. And you know a little bit about my work, and one of the things that I'm working and talking about lately is knowing yourself and maturing and unfolding to our potential. And it sounds like that your Imagine Hypnotics fits right in there with that, because as you learn more about yourself and change things, then you become more of who and what you really want to be.
That's exactly right. And what I'm seeing, Pamela, is a lot of clients coming in for that exact reason. They want to know more about themselves. They innately know that they are more than what they have been led to believe they are.
Right.
And I can't tell you how many clients have come to me to say, hey, you know what? I'm not taking any more psychotropic drugs. I'm not doing that anymore.
Great.
I know I can feel better without that stuff.
Oh,
and
that has to make you feel very, very supported when you hear that in your work. You must feel, oh, this is great. This is all worth it, to hear someone say that.
Well, it is. It's first of all, it's true.
Yes.
But what I get excited about is the fact that we have another human being who has entered the room and said, you know what? I want to essentially cleanse myself of this stuff that I've been ingesting, and do it more holistically and energetically and get well.
Right.
And so it puts a big smile on my face. There's no doubt.
Oh, I'm sure it does. I'm sure it does. Now, after people have come to an understanding and some help, do they speak to you about knowing themselves better or functioning better, or, what are some of their responses to you after they've been working on themselves through hypnosis? Well,
it depends. Some clients you will see, they'll come once and you may never see them again. And that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
But I have many other clients that come to me and they will come back for follow-up sessions, or they will stay in touch with me. They'll email me and tell me about how their life has improved, how the shift and the change took place. And they're very excited about the path that they're on. And that makes me feel good. It just makes the work worth it.
Right.
Because when I do this work, I do this work because I want to help people. That's what I want to do.
Absolutely.
Right? It's all about helping people. And so if I can help somebody get on the right path, understand their purpose in life, get reconnected to spirit, if I can help them do those things, if I can be that conduit, if I can be that catalyst, it's worth it.
Right. And, I talk about how the work we do these days doesn't feed us because it doesn't make the full circle. But when you do your work and people respond to you and say, oh, what we did was great and I'm seeing the results, that's a full circle. because you put out and gave of yourself and your creativity, gave it to that other person, and then they're giving you back the result. That's the full circle that we're looking for. And when we have that circle that comes around, then our work is not hard on us. We can do it and not be stressed out. It actually feeds us when we get that full circle. Now, when we work in the corporate world, you rarely get the full circle. And so it is stressful and it is difficult. But when we do the work, like when you had your experience and knew you needed to do something different, it was time for you to do something different. What you chose to do does make that circle, and it does feed you. And I'm glad to hear of that, because the stress in the corporate world is killing us. It's one of those slow kill things. And I love to hear the stories when you're fed back from your work.
Well, the corporate world is a perpetual motion machine of self-inflicted crisis and drama, right? Which they have to have the fear factor, although no corporation will ever admit this. It has to be part and parcel of what goes on. Otherwise, there's, quote unquote, sense of urgency, right?
Right.
And if there's no sense of urgency, then you're not going to work hard.
Your production will fall off.
Right. You're not going to be productive. So, so the point being is that you're absolutely right. It's not full circle in the corporate world. People are constantly on a stream of high stress.
Right.
And anxiety, it's that stress level, that switch is always on.
Yeah. Well, I've done talks on that, on the capitalistic system and the corporate world and all of that, and how it is absolutely using us up. Yet again, we're the resource to fuel their machine. And when you do the work you do, helping people unfold and get to know themselves and make changes, and they're making changes from their own awareness. You're talking to parts of them, right, and getting information. Boy, you can't go wrong there. I mean, it's a win-win all the way in my book.
Yeah, and it's a tough thing. And like I said, that's why I said before, my experience in the corporate world has been very, very beneficial to the practice.
Oh, I'm sure.
Because so many folks, so many clients come in and they work for corporations, and they don't think that somebody understands them.
Right. But we really are taught to not whine about it.
Right.
They say, don't whine about it. Just go do it. Everybody does it. You do it.
Yeah, just suck it up. Right.
Right. And it just gets more and more and more. And I know that you can remember, just like I can, back when people didn't have such a load, but it has incrementally moved to the point where we are now, where people do 4 and 5 people's jobs.
Right.
20 years ago, there were 4 and 5 people doing what you do every day. Now, just you. And it is stressful. How could it not be?
Oh, it's very stressful. I mean, companies today, they're telling their employees that there's work-life integration, not work-life balance, work-life integration. And what that means is your work is your life.
Right.
That's what they're telling their employees these days. And it's just phenomenal. I mean, at some point, in my view, there's going to be a breaking point, because people cannot continue to function this way. It's not a normal way to function.
It isn't. And, the thing that just breaks my heart, and I'm not just saying that, I truly mean it breaks my heart, is that we are a resource and they will throw us away so quickly, and not even bat an eye as soon as they've used us up. And you're right. There is a breaking point. And I've seen it in people. I used to work in a large corporation, and we literally had ambulances showing up every day, more than once a day, to take people out who broke down from the stress.
Yeah.
And it's one of our biggest corporations in this country.
Well, how many people do you know that are able to retire, as an example, for those few that are still able to do that, and then soon after retirement, they have a heart attack?
Oh, absolutely. That's no accident, Mike. That is no accident. That's what you do with resources. You use them up and throw them away.
Right.
We have got to realize that we are not persons any longer to these people, and they're not people, they're businesses. We are resources. They say that in the name, and we need to know what that means. And then we'll have to make a different decision about how we're going to do this, how we're going to manage this. If we have to work for these people, then we're going to do it with our thinking and not with their thinking, because their thinking is use you up and throw you away.
Well, you're a tool in a toolbox. So you're a screwdriver, you're a wrench,
Right.
You're a pair of pliers, you're a hammer. And when a better screwdriver comes along or a better hammer comes along, then, you're going to get tossed aside.
That's right.
And what most people in the corporate world, especially the big multinational corporations, do not understand is that the ultimate goal of these corporations is to automate.
Yes. And what does that mean? That means doing away with human beings.
Exactly. Exactly right. And you can see it at your supermarket. If you go to Home Depot, whatever it may be, you have all the self-checkout.
Yep. And I refuse to use them too.
Yeah.
I hate that I even have to go there sometimes, but I refuse to use them because every time I use that means that somebody lost their job.
Exactly.
And I can't do it.
And what I tell my clients, Pamela, is that we are energetic beings, and ask them to imagine a garden hose. And when you turn the spigot, the water runs through it. That's your energy flowing through that hose. Mm. And when you take your hand, you crimp that hose, that water backs up. And that's like the energy in your body. So when you have all of these stresses in your life, that's the crimping of the hose. And somehow that water, that energy has to release in some way. There's going to be a breaking point. And this is what happens. This is how people get their anxieties and their fears and their pain, and they have skin disorders, they bite their nails and so on, because that energy is crimped. It's not flowing properly. That's
right. That is so good. It is so wonderful that you're able to help people, and that's a great visual tool that you give them, that crimping of the hose. That's absolutely perfect. And now that they can see that, they can visualize that, and they can say, well, I'm not whining. This is real.
Right.
And then the next step is let's do something about it now that we see what it is exactly. And so that's wonderful. Well, we need to round up this hour, Mike. It's been so exciting, and I'm looking so forward to the second hour, where we're going to talk about past life regression and lives between lives. I think that is really exciting to talk about. And we're also going to look into another song on your Leaving Dystopia album. And so we have lots to look forward to in the second hour, and we invite everyone to become a member and come join us in the second hour. This is Pamela Tartar. My special guest today is Michael Williams. You're listening to Factor 9 on Pure Momentum Network, and we'll be right back in the second hour. Come be with us, please.
We invite all our listeners to join us in the members section for the second hour of all our shows. We encourage you to click on the subscribe button, choose a membership type, pay with PayPal, and voila, you're a member. Enjoy all Pure Momentum Network material, the second hour of all talk shows, extra interviews, and all archives. For less than 2 coffees a month, you can subscribe, become a valued member of Pure Momentum Network,